Welcome to the Right Club Podcast, where the focus is on helping you, the real estate investor, advance to the next level. And now let's join this week's hosts and share ways for you to customize your life.
Why I'm doing like everybody else, why not to jump into private lending and then go backwards if I choose so? But I realize that I have more freedom, I have more flexibility, I don't need to deal with tenants, but people don't pay rent, but people pay mortgages. You know, of course, there's people who don't pay mortgages, but I found that you will be scared not to pay mortgage, then you will be scared not to pay rent, right? Of course, depends on different provinces you're in, but I found that is fascinating.
It does depend on the provinces, because I feel like, you know, Ontario, they get away with a lot more. So there's Montreal, and then you go to like Alberta and it's different.
Absolutely, because there is a like a landlord friendly provinces and some of them is not. So that's kind of what I realized. So pros for me, because I have a security, right? So, but I lend secured, I lend unsecured, I lend mobile homes, I lend art collections, I lend on cars, I lend different types of loan. I've done 290 loans myself personally through my own personal holding company, corporation. And I also help my investors to do the same what I'm doing. And recently, like 4 years ago, we opened a bond fund where we can pull money out. So for me, it's kind of easier because, you know, I don't need to qualify for the mortgages. That's a pros, right? Like, because if you want to buy and don't pay cash, then you have to qualify for a mortgage. Sooner or later, a bank will say no to you, and they have to come to firms like us to borrow extra cash at higher rate. The cause is there is no appreciation. So if you're looking for just a cash flow, steady cash flow, it's good. But if you're looking for appreciation, then of course, lending money, it will not get you there. So that's why if you follow our wealth triangle formula, you have to grow your wealth on the top of the triangle at a higher, much higher pace. And then you use money to protect using a specific design, life contracts. And then you use our bond fund, a similar venture, so you can have a cash flow. In terms of other kind of pros and cons, I think that's the biggest ones that I see, that people always asking me, you know, like, well, you'll not be able to do it. But you have other investments. You have something like if you invest in the stock market, if you invest in businesses, because the business is the best way to grow your wealth. And then eventually you invest in real estate on other asset classes. And that's what I learned from a book, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki was saying that you have to invest in business first, then invest. I did opposite. I started investing in real estate and made a business out of it as of necessity, right? Then just kind of following the smart advice.
So what's the number one problem that the real estate investors come to you with? Is it, well, no, I'm not gonna give you the answer. Just what's the biggest problem that you hear over and over from real estate investors?
Banks are very tough nowadays. Like if you want to get and grow your portfolio, you need to use leverage, right? And the bank is your best partner. There is nothing better than the banks, because the money is there is so cheap. You have to maintain a very, very good relationship with the bank. And people come to us because they buy not for the cash flow. So banks will not lend them. They buy on speculative mode. They buy something not conforming. So they cannot prove the income of the property to the bank. And they come to us, so bank doesn't want to approve me. I said, well, why is that? Well, because I don't declare enough income. So they don't like self-employed people. We can fix that issue. Or they say, well, property is not conforming because you have a suited house and it's not there. Or DCR for multi-units, it doesn't work because the banks calculate their own ratios on their own calculators, not like you have a rent minus mortgage minus property taxes, everything else is cash flow. That's not how the banks calculate. And the rules and regulations that come into the marketplace is just making it like very, very hard, you know, for investor to buy it. And that's why you need to use other people's money. And I recommend my clients and investors to start using start using investors' money and borrowers' qualifications like right from the beginning. Don't wait, couple of years while you're in acquisition mode. Just start doing it right away. So this way you will be prepared when you hit the ceiling with the bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big believer in just having multiple options for lending, whether it's, traditionally working with a good mortgage broker, private lenders, et cetera, so you can cast a wide net so that you have a deal under contract, you have options. I do want to take a different approach and find out from the other point of view, though. If somebody does have cash that they want to lend out, what are some of the criteria that they should consider before lending that out? Like what do you look for in order to say, I want to loan to this investor on this deal, or, this is not the right investor, this is not the right deal? Could you walk us through maybe some of that mindset and how you go about that?
Absolutely. And it all comes down to trust. Financial services is trust business. If you trust this person, you will lend money. If you don't trust, don't lend money. Some people, lend money close in their backyard. We currently lend Alberta and BC. So for us, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, I was lending money on art collection. There is no security. I was lending money 150% loan to value. There is no security. I was lending money on cars, try to find the car. For you, it's not for everyone. Like investing in real estate, not for everyone. Some people like stock market. Some people like build businesses. Some people just lazy like me and want to just lend money out. That's it, right? So it all depends at what stage of life you're in. But in order for you how to underwrite the files properly to make sure you mitigate the risk, it just comes down of experience. Because when you get started, I would recommend you to work with somebody who is experienced in that, like everything else. If you invest in real estate and want to buy a house, don't just go blindly buy it. Partner up with someone who already done that, right? And that's number one. And as you go, you will see, because you might do like 10 deals and you never lose money in private lending. And if you do, very first one and it's going to go sideways. Same with real estate. Like if you buy a house and it's not performing, it might be a disaster for you. But if you, and disaster comes, like all the problems comes of knowledge, like fear, lack of knowledge. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you will be kind of stuck. But if you actually know what you're doing, you can underwrite the files when you lend. And like, I wouldn't lend to friends, to be honest, because if you want to lose a friend, give them money kind of thing. But, and I've done this in the past and I still don't have friends, because sometimes they take advantage of it. However, I would just prefer to lend to third party people. Because when you get into this position, unless you understand and they understand, when like if you're secured on the property and you have legal right to take their house and sell it to get your money back, everybody has to agree. That's why I use lawyers. Never do it like on a handshake kind of thing. Of course you can do it, and I've done this. I've done promissory notes, not anymore, because what for? But in the beginning, whatever if you're getting into, you just need this experience and check the property, how you see if you like the property. And some people say, well, I only lend if I will live in the property. I have a different approach. I will lend just for the sake of lending money, because I will never live in a property where my borrowers live in, right? So for me, like how I can justify that. So some people rely on that. I have a different approach, probably because we have multiple deals, and it depends how much cash you have available. If you only play with $100,000, well, how many loans you can do, right? If you play with $100 million fund, then you have a lot of things where you can lend out. So it depends where you stand, and something in between, like if you have $1 million or $2 million account, it's up to you. What I found, most people are starting small when they start lending, and mostly they're doing second mortgages. That's how I started, second and third mortgages. And I love that because I can deliver good returns. I understand the risks being in second and third position lender, and I'm okay with that. And for me, there is no risk. Like it's asking somebody, if you're doing it for the first time, of course you have a huge amount of risk. If you're doing this multiple times, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times, then it's like ask the experienced real estate investor, would you buy there or not, right? Like, well, I will not buy in this area, well, because of that. Same here as well. You will not lend money to people who fall into a specific category, but we give chances to people all the time.
Thanks for listening to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is on helping all levels of real estate investors advance to the next level and help you customize your life. Be sure to tune in next week at rightclub.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you get a few seconds, please rate the podcast wherever you're listening. It helps the show get noticed by others like you, and we truly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe.